Welcome back, everybody. All right, so this may sound really ridiculous and really simple to do, but if you're into any kind of environment where you're going to make architecture, whether it's games or movies or just even some architectural renders, you need to put something on the table. And of course, what goes on tables, glasses, mugs, plates, all of that stuff goes on the table. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about what to do and how to model it and how to model it for different environments. So, if you don't know, modeling for a game environment, an interactive environment, is going to be a lot different from an architectural render. The reason is that in the interactive environment, you don't get a lot of resources, whereas the interactive or is it the architectural render, you have a lot more resources. So let's get started and let's model a simple plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push delete or X and simply create it there. I'm going to go ahead and push create, and I'm going to use a cylinder here. I'm going to push S to scale and lock it on the Z axis by pressing Z, and I'm simply going to move it down here. Now I'm going to make a low poly plate first, and this is actually going to be quite simple here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tab into edit mode and I'm going to hop into face select. I'm going to hop into this face here up top, and I'm going to push E to extrude, right click, and then scale it in. And then I'm just going to simply move it down just a bit. E to extrude, scale it in, move it down just a bit. E to extrude, right click, scale it in. Maybe a little more this time, just move it down. E to extrude, scale it in, and we'll make it even a little bit more this time. And there we go. And I think that should probably about do it here. Now you can see here that if I just kind of look around, we have this nice little plate here. Now, keep in mind that this is actually a pretty big plate. So we need to scale that whole thing down, maybe to something about that size. And you can see here that it works out quite well. And by the way, I'm pushing tab to tab in between object and edit mode. And by the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there is a 1-hour Blender tutorial which will tell you all the basics here. All right, and just for fun, let's bring that down just a bit. There we go. Okay, so the other thing we can do is if we need more depth, we can just simply bring that down like this, which I think we do. Okay, so this is a perfect low poly plate. We can add in a material to it. It doesn't really make much of a difference. The one thing we do need to talk about is if we hop in here and we go to add modifier, and we're going to add in a subdivision surface modifier. And what this will do is this will add more vertices to your model. Okay, and the one thing about vertices is that if you want something to be smooth, like a plate, you have to add in more vertices. That's how you do it. That's how you make something more smooth in the world of computers. So if I tab into edit mode, you can see here that this is what the current geometry looks like. And the geometry is all of these faces here, these vertices, or these edges here. And if I go ahead and I tab back in object mode and push apply, then tab back in edit mode, you can see that there's a lot more vertices here. Way more than there was before. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to undo that here. I'm going to add back that subdivision surface modifier. And if you click on view, and let's just tab back into edit object mode, the more views you add, the smoother it gets. Now watch what happens when I click apply. That's a lot of vertices, okay? Now, if you're into games specifically, this is too many vertices for a plate. In fact, a character, like a full-blown character, will probably not have this many vertices. Okay, I'm going to undo that here. Now, if I was making this for a game, this would probably pass for a plate. I'd probably make it even a little less detailed, maybe even take out a few of these rows here. For the most part, you don't really need it. If I was making this for an architectural render, I might do 2, maybe 3, most likely 2, if I wanted to do that here. And if I wanted to make something in a movie here, even though you do get unlimited resource time with movies, if you're an independent or an indie person, time is always of the essence, and you want to make sure that you cut your rendering time down. And the more complicated your geometry is, the more complicated the more time it will take. So what I usually like to do is I like to put all of my work into the texturing and mapping and not the geometry. Although there's some cases where you can't get away with a lot of geometry, and you just have to figure that out, okay? So for the most part, I'm going to leave it, I'm just going to get rid of this here. And this is a pretty cool little plate here, and I think it works out quite well. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.